So, bonjour, this is Pierre at Pierre's Adventure, and today we are in Dallas at a show called the NAMTA show, National Art Material Trade Association, and that's where all the manufacturers from all over the world meet, the art supply manufacturers. And today something very special happened. When I woke up, I just decided to go down to the coffee shop. When I never do that, I usually wait for my wife to wake up and do that. And I was like cold down there. So I go get my coffee, and then who do I meet? Kathleen.
Oh, and it was so exciting.
So I see Kathleen painting. Here I was on the and painting her little watercolor. So I said, oh wow, happy painting. And then I don't know how we engaged. And then, so then you asked me who I was. And then I said what I was, and then there was almost tear in your eyes when I said what I was doing. So can you refresh in very 30 seconds that moment? What happened?
Well, you said Fabriano, and that was all it took to me, because when I first became famous, this is what I was using every day, every single day, because I would get on a bus and I had to have it small and everything had to fit together, and I painted every day on the bus. And this is what I had, was a block, high quality block of watercolor paper to use, to paint with. And so I've wanted, ever since that day, to be important to you. And how could I have possibly ever expected to meet you?
But you just have to be at the right place at the right time, like painting at the coffee shop when I ordered my coffee. Well, that was meant to be, I guess. So can you tell us just quickly about, you were talking about that bus ride, because so you changed job and you got a new job. You can talk about that, but then you start to have long commute, and so tell us quickly about that experience.
Because I would get on the bus at 5:45 in the morning, and it was an hour-and-a-half trip on the bus. And so I invented a way that I could set my paints, everything on my lap, and paint every day. And during that time, I was basically doing small paintings, like that.
Yeah, let's not put it. So, yeah, small paintings are just...
Yes, this would be the block. Right here would be the block of paper, and on my palette, sitting on my lap. And I would paint, and all of these people on the bus would get on and see me painting, and I was important to them. And they would get off the bus and see the progress on the painting, and it was important to them. And then they started talking about me, and they called me the bus paintings artist.
The painting. Oh, and then the press came.
Right,
so what happened then?
The Austin Statesman came, the newspaper in Austin, a writer came, and they wrote an article about me, and they called me the best paintings artist. And one of them called my art Original Texas Whimsy. And
Whimsy.
And they spelled whimsy wrong, WHIMSEY, and I've always used that. I stayed with the misspelling. And but they even did a story on follow-up stories on me, and they'd say, where is she now? So they've come back and checked to see what I was doing. Well, for 4 years, I rode the bus painting every day in the morning and in the afternoon. And then for 1 year was when the train started. And in 2011, November 11th, 2011.
Wow. You know about this year,
Yes. I ended up being able to quit work, and my intention was to teach full-time. And so I started teaching full-time, and it was so important to me that my students understood the quality was so important, because they'd say, well, I have paint. And I'd say, well, are you painting? And they'd say, well, no, because I need to learn how. Well, I'd explain to them that how brilliant the colors were, and how the quality of paper and all of those things mattered in their learning process, because when they put their brush in that paint and it doesn't do what they expect it to do, they give up.
Yeah, I know, that's the big terrible thing, and that's what we're talking about, is unfortunately many beginners think that they don't deserve, or they don't need, or they can't use the good product, and it's counterproductive. And like you said, I hear people then they give up, because even when you're a beginner, it's best to use the right product. And you said something earlier that's very important about, can you repeat when you say it's better off to have a few good colors than so tell us about that concept,
right.
Because people sometimes think bigger is better, but it's not.
Right. Well, and I'd ask them, well, what brand do you have? And they wouldn't know the brand, but they'd say, well, I bought the 20 pack or the 24 pack or whatever. And I'd say, something, you'd be a lot better off taking my recommendation and buying a yellow, red, and blue, the primary colors, and learning how to use those 3 colors to mix your secondary colors than you would to have 20 colors. And so you can afford the highest quality paint you can buy.
And what color were you using then? You mentioned
I was using red.
You said the brand of the color you were using. You told me
the brand of colors. Yes. So Daniel Smith has been the color, and the reason I chose Daniel Smith was because it was manufactured in the United States, and I had been familiar with Daniel Smith paint for a very long time.
And but you also had some experience with the Sennelier paint.
Sennelier was my oil paint choice.
Okay.
And I couldn't oil paint on the vest, so.
So that's what. Also, you were using Sennelier on the oil.
Oh,
okay,
yes,
that's good.
Yes, sir.
So, but can you tell us also the other story? 2 other that you told me that was very interesting was the museum story, the thing. So,
yes,
as you were doing that, and then they discover you, and then you became famous.
Right. So the Austin Statesman, and along with Hill Country News and several of the newspapers around the area, interviewed me also and wrote articles about me. And they were like community interest type articles, and that's when the Bob Bullock Museum, the buyer from Bob Bullock Museum, came to me and said, we would like to use one of your longhorns. And I do funny looking longhorns. They kind of make Texans laugh at themselves,
And you should show, do you have one of them here?
Well, I do. I have one that's a logo on my business card.
So then they end up selling your original work, like your t-shirt. Maybe you can show your t-shirt.
My licensed image. This is one that's with Sue Patrick in Austin, which is a long-time clothing store. They've had my images on t-shirts now for about 8 years. And they have an area that they call Kathleen's Corner, so it's coffee cups and T-shirts.
And then one other story, because we can talk for all day, but I will ask. You told me so many beautiful stories, but there is one also in particular that I think is wonderful, which is actually the world should listen to that, because my philosophy, I told you, is art is good for you and art is good for the world, but you have a very specific experience of the person who was sick, who was ill with cancer. Can you tell us briefly about that experience, because this is very revealing of something very important.
Well, it's hard for students that have never painted before to think that they should go take a watercolor class, and I talk people into it, and then they bring a friend or two. And this one woman that had come to a couple of my classes, I didn't see her for a while, and she came back, and I said, I've missed you, where have you been? And she said, Kathleen, I need to tell you right now, you saved my life. And I said, oh, wow. My goodness, I couldn't have possibly saved your life. No, teaching me to watercolor paint saved my life. Because right after I started taking your classes, my sister had found out that she had cancer again. And she said, I had gone through one full treatment with her, and she had gone into remission and had done well. And then when I found out, and she said I'd covenanted with her to be with her for all of her treatments. And the treatments, they go into a center, and there's a lot of people that are having treatments, and it's a sad place, and there's crying, and it's stressful, and it's hard for people that are with their loved ones to go through the experience of this. It's hard for everybody. And so she said, after I learned to paint and I bought your palette and I was using the brush, and I had enough confidence to put water and color on my paper. She said I started taking it with me, and I sat by her side as she was having the treatment, and I started painting. And she said the first time I did it, I realized people were stretching their neck trying to see what I was doing. And she said they might be sitting with somebody that was really, really crying, but they'd turn around and tell the person that was crying, that woman over there is painting. And
so it was comforting. It was people.
Oh,
it
it
made
was-
their life a little more, a
Well-
little easier, a little more joyful. Maybe it's exaggerated, but a little more.
Oh no, Pierre, it was more joyful because I thought to myself right then and there, I can't ever stop teaching. This is why I'm teaching. And that's why every time that when you introduced yourself, there were tears, because one of my greatest hopes has been to be somebody to this paper.
Kathleen, show us a little tease us with your class, because I want people to go to your class. So let's see what you can do.
So the red paint is it's just, I love the way it's grabbing the paper here, and on the hot press or the cold press, but I'm using the cold press right now, and we're just doing this little poppy here. There, we won't go any farther on that. And I love this red. This is, so Pierre, tell me, what do y'all call this palette of?
So this one is it's called La Petite Aquarelle. Aquarelle means watercolor in French.
Yes.
And La Petite Aquarelle. Oh, I love that little thing. La Petite Aquarelle, and it's from the company called Sennelier, which is an old company from the 19th century, 1880s, and that's where the Impressionists used to go and paint, like Cézanne or even Sargent and things. So it's very unique. So look at that. My God, you see, when I see that, it looks so easy or so accessible. People are threatened, are intimidated with a piece of paper. But here you make it show like magic.
It is. It's so rewarding to my students when they learn how easily they can create art that they're proud of. And at the end of all my classes, my students stand up and do this side by side, and they're just smiling, and they are so proud of their art. And that's why I teach, is so that they will look at it like a hobby and not be afraid of it. Not be afraid.
All right, great, thank you. This is music in my ear,
gosh.
and I hope that will inspire you to go paint. Go for it.